Hi, I'm Lightheart. I love Pokemon, and as a result, there's a lot of Pokemon I have strong opinions on. One of those is Drapion, and my opinion is that it's probably the most broken Pokemon ever. To prove my point, I grab a Drapion with a bad nature and 0 IVs, train them in HP and defense, and held them at aauron at the Nuzlocke level cap. He leads Dustox as I lead Drapion. The reason Drapion is so broken is that they get Battle Armor, which blocks critical hits, and Acupressure, which boosts a random stat. I can do this basically forever as Dustox's bug buzzers deal very little damage. Not to mention just how bad the Diamond and Pearl AI is, with Dustox wasting time on things like Light Screen. Between the evasion boosts, special defense boosts, and leftovers, I can get back to full HP before I start to cleave through his Pokemon with Crunch. Beautifly causes no issues, however Heracross survives a Crunch but misses a Night Slash. Vespiquen is no threat, and aauron's Drapion cannot hit me either. The fact that Acupressure boosts evasion remains to be the dumbest thing ever, by the way. Anyway, next is Bertha, who is actually the reason I needed to pick Diamond and Pearl and not Platinum. Her lead Whiscash would have destroyed me with Earth Power, but Quagsire only knows Dig, which is blocked by Protect, and Sandstorm to nullify my leftovers. They try to set up with Double Team, but that's impossible with Acupressure's accuracy boosts. And even then, by the time they hit with a Dig, my defense is already way too high. So after another 20 or so Acupressure, I crunch straight through all of her Pokemon. Next up is Flint, who's actually a bit shaky. His Rapidash is actually the reason I invested in defense, as the sun-boosted Flare Blitz hits really hard. However, with Protect to stall Suntons, leftovers, and defense and evasion boosts, I'm pretty safe. In fact, I'm so safe I can't even heal off my paralysis from Bounce with Rest, as Rapidash can't do enough damage. So I'm slowed down slightly and cleaving through Flint's team with Crunch. The other thing slowing me down slightly is the fact that Steelix just refuses to die. Whatever, surely this level of hubris won't come back to bite me. Anyway, whatever, Lucian is really simple. I sit up, wait for Reflect to go down, and then cleave through his team with Crunch. Last is Cynthia, who actually inspired me to make this video. She's actually the first trainer I have to use Rest against. This is because her Spiritomb knows Embargo, a move I don't really think about that often. But Drapion resists Dark, so Spiritomb can't do much, and once I'm set up, I can cleave through her team with Crunch. Even Lucario, who dual resists the move, falls relatively easily. In fact, this fight is so easy for Drapion, I can solo it with a level 40 Drapion, with better IVs and special defense investment. Unfortunately, Scarapi only evolves at level 40, otherwise would be even lower. Spiritomb deals a bit more damage when I'm like 27 levels under-leveled, but it's fine, we're fine. I can just rest it off a few times. But I do need a change of moveset, so instead, after setting up, I kill Spiritomb with a pair of Earthquakes. Next up is Gastrodon, but they are relatively weak, so even if they did use a super effective Earthquake, it wouldn't matter, meaning I'm safe to kill with 2 Earthquakes. But I'm not arrogant enough to think Garchomp isn't a threat, so I fire off an Ice Fang, which doesn't even one-shot, and then an Earthquake strikes back to remind me to stop listening to Love Live songs and pay attention. But Garchomp still falls to an Ice Fang, and Lucario to an Earthquake. Melodic is really bulky thanks to Aqua Ring, causing some issues with healing, but eventually dies, and last is Roserade, who suffers from being edible. This strategy also works in Platinum, by the way. In fact, with Cynthia being a lower level, it actually works better. But one game isn't good enough of an argument for my hubristic desires, so let's hop over to Black and White 2 and fight Grimsley, this time with the Drapion trained in special defense. He leads Liepard as I lead Drapion. After a fake out, Aerial Ace deals little damage, so I'm safe to set up and then claw through his team with Aerial Ace. It's not always getting one-shots, especially not against Bishop, but Drapion is so bulky with Acupressure it doesn't matter. Next up is Marshal, who leads Throw as I spam Acupressure. You'd think that it'd be a problem with Bulldoze, but apparently not. Even with him spam lowering my speed, between speed boosts and evasion boosts, I'm able to easily outperform my fighting foe in the category of stat changes, though it requires a bit more than the normal 21 Acupressures. Anyway, Aerial Ace is gonna Aerial Ace, and his team is fighting type, so no further questions. Next up, Shantel. Her Cofagrigus lands Will-O-Wisp to reverse my leftovers and Shadow Ball, which is a chance to drop special defense, so she could be a problem. But trying is unnecessary when you have Drapion, as I can just rest up when needed, set up my Acupressures, and sweep with Crunch. Chandelure does have Flame Body, but even if it worked, I could still kill Driftblim with a Crunch, and even if I couldn't, I could have one-shot with Shadow Ball from a TM. So basically we're unstoppable. Believing this has never once backfired. Anyway, last for the Elite Four is Caitlan, who leads Musharna, who is a bit of a problem because she has Yawn to put me to sleep and Charge Beam to power up their attacks. The solution to this is to rest after I get Yawn to avoid a full 3-turn sleep and to heal up, so that even though Musharna gets quite a few boosts from Charge Beam, they also run out of Charge Beams relatively quickly, allowing me to set up acupressures completely for free and crush her team with Crunch. If you've been enjoying this video so far, please consider liking, commenting, and or subscribing as a sacrifice to the YouTube gods. Anyway, Drapion truly is the strongest Pokemon of all time. There is no possible way I could run into problems with Iris. She leads Hydreigon, whose Dragon Pulse hits really hard. Like, really hard. But that's not a problem, as I can use Rest to stall them out. The problem is, when they run out of Dragon Pulses, they start using a random move, including Charge Beam, which can get special attack boosts, which gets really bad really quickly. Did I just lose in my own video? I guess. But the point is that even the most powerful Pokemon need some allies. So I grab a Chinchino with Captivate, use it once, and then spam Lumberry until Chinchino falls to show what the battle would be like if Hydreigon got a crit to one-shot. From here, with Hydreigon's special attack halved, it is incredibly free to set up Acupressure 20 or so times, use Rest when necessary, and one-shot Hydreigon with a critical hit Aerial Ace. Next up is Aggron, who takes less than half from a Crunch but just tries to set up Automatize, not knowing they will never become faster than me even at +6. Not even with a second Automatize, as a defense drop prevents healing from being an effective strategy. Next up is Haxorus, who survives with a Focus Sash and then tries to become faster than me with a Dragon Dance. The only issue is that's a terrible idea, I'm at +6. Last for the dragons, Dredagon, who can't resist a Crunch either, nor can anyone else on her team. But we're not done yet. I still need to win with a level 40 Drapion, but for that I'm going to need a bunch of Cottony with Prankster and the egg move Memento. Now this move can only be obtained with breeding with Jumpluff, so you couldn't get it in a normal playthrough, but come on! Fighting Iris with level 1 Pokemon is fun even if it requires trading. If you prefer, you can just imagine I EV train Diffuse Encino and use Captivate again. Anyway, once Hydreigon is at -6, setting up Acupressures is a joke, so now it's time to cleave through her team. But this again requires different moves. This time Ice Fang, which obviously isn't a one-hit KO due to the level difference, but works fine nonetheless, and Dig, which Aggron could punish me for heavily with Earthquake, but they go for another pointless Automatize. Aggron's speed stat is like 2. Whatever, next up is Haxorus, who lives in Ice Fang but also wastes time with the Dragon Dance. Gen 5 AI tip, set up a bunch of speed boosts so the AI wastes their time trying to outspeed you. Anyway, Drodagon tries a Dragon Tail, but I have no Pokemon to switch to anyway. Lapras takes less than 50% from a Dig, so I have to chip with an Ice Fang to prevent her from healing before taking the kill with a final Dig. And finally, Archeops, my first one-hit KO with an Ice Fang. Well, that was fun. I wonder if Drapion is as OP versus actual people as it is versus the AI.
Solid and well-rounded though it was, Drapion's stat spread wasn't quite sufficient to make it OU material in its debut generation.
Well, who asked you anyway? I guess I did. Anyway, if you have an idea for a Pokemon who's more OP than Drapion in single player, I'd love to hear it in the comments. But with that, I'm Lightheart, and always remember, critical hits suck, but Pokemon is way worse without them.